It is evident from the context of the above verse that since the verse preceding it states that an animal that has been cut open by a beast is only allowed to be eaten if it is found alive and then slaughtered in the prescribed way, it was but natural that the question should arise, is such an animal allowed to be eaten as has been pounced upon by a tamed beast of prey and the animal dies before one gets the chance to slaughter it in the prescribed way? The verse answers the question in the affirmative and says that cutting open of an animal by a tamed beast of prey is tantamount to tazkiyah, and therefore it can be eaten even if it has not been slaughtered in the prescribed way, with one condition. The tamed beast of prey has preserved the prey for his master and has not eaten from it. In case it has, then such an animal should not be eaten. This condition is stated in the words mimma amsakna alaykum, or what they have preserved for you. Moreover, in this regard, there is no need to discriminate between tamed beasts of prey and tamed birds of prey. Birds like falcons, eagles, and hawks also can be tamed for catching a prey. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is reported to have explained this Quranic purport in the following words: when you release your dog to catch the prey, take the name of Allah while doing so. If you then see that it has not killed the prey, slaughter it in the prescribed way and take Allah's name while slaughtering it. If it has killed the prey but did not take a bite, then you can eat it since it has preserved it for you. However, if it has eaten from the prey, then such a prey is forbidden for you because the beast of prey has in this case preserved it for itself. And if you see other dogs besides yours who have also killed the prey, then do not eat from it, since you do not know which of the dogs has actually killed the prey. An-Nasai, Sunan, page 594, hadith number 4268. Besides the word maitha, the other two things mentioned in the verse are drained out blood and pork. As far as the prohibition of pork is concerned, it needs no elaboration, while in the case of the prohibition of blood, it needs to be kept in mind that the meaning of the words daman masfuhan, or blood poured forth, have a linguistic usage in the light of which they should be understood. Spleen and liver are nothing but blood, yet usage of the word entails that they not be included in its connotation, as has been pointed out by Az-Zamakhshari, quoted earlier. The adjective masfuhan, or poured forth, which qualifies blood, shows that the blood which is left in the blood vessels of the animal is an exception to this directive. In this list, the fourth and last thing is the meat of an animal, while slaughtering which the name of someone other than Allah is invoked. The verse itself explains that the reason for the prohibition of such meat is not rijs or impurity of the animal, but the fisq or defiance of the person who slaughters the animal. Since slaughtering an animal while invoking the name of someone other than Allah is an idolatrous practice, it has been termed as fisq or defiance, which is a form of an impurity pertaining to one's beliefs. Consequently, sense and reason demand that anything which contains such impurity should be analogously included in this prohibition. So, on this very principle, the Quran has prohibited certain other similar things. It says, وَمَا زُبِيحَ لَلنُّصُبِ وَأَن تَسْتَقْسِمُوا بِالْأَزْلَامِ ذَلِكُمْ فِسْقٌ. And what is slaughtered at the stone altars, and forbidden also, is the division of meat by raffling with arrows. This is an act of disobedience. Surah number 5, verse 3. While explaining this verse, Imam Amin Hasan Islahi writes, Nusub means the stone altars on which sacrifices and offerings are made. There were several such altars in Arabia where sacrifices were offered to please numerous deities, demons, and the jinn. The Quran has also prohibited such a slaughtered animal. It is evident from the words of the Quran that the real reason for their prohibition is merely to please a deity or to seek its nearness. It is of no consequence whether the name of Allah has been invoked or not in such cases. If this prohibition was owing to the fact that the name of someone other than Allah has been invoked during sacrifice, then there was no need to mention it separately, since such a prohibition has already been mentioned earlier in the words, وَمَا أُحِلَّ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ بِهِ. In my opinion, also included in the sphere of this prohibition are the various sacrifices offered in tombs and mausoleums to earn the pleasure of the departed person buried in the grave or the tomb. At the time of the slaughter, whether the name of Allah is invoked or that of the person buried in the grave or tomb, the real reason of prohibition is not this invocation, but the place at which the slaughter takes place. The word istiqsam means to look up one's share or to find out about one's own fate and future. The word azlam means arrows of divination or gambling. The practice of seeking divination from arrows was in vogue in Arabia, through which people would try to find out fates ordained for them. Similarly, the practice of gambling on arrows was also in vogue in Arabia, through which they would procure pieces of meat or some other thing. I have already pointed out in my commentary on Surah Baqarah under verse 219 that people would gather at various places, drink liquor, and in their state of inebriation slaughter any camels that they would get hold of. They would pay the owner of the camels whatever price he demanded. They would then gamble on the meat of the slaughtered camels. Whatever parts of a meat a person won in this gambling, he would cook and eat them and drink liquor. They would also generously distribute them among the poor who would gather around them on such occasions. At times, such fights and brawls would emerge in such gatherings as a result of inebriation, which would result in intertribal battles that would last for years and cause a lot of bloodshed. I think that the words وَأَن تَسْتَقْسِمُوا بِالْأَزْلَامِ of the verse actually refer to this second category. Amin Ahsan Islahi, Tadabbur-e-Quran, Volume 2, pages 456 and 457. An animal which is slaughtered such that no name other than Allah is invoked on it, but the name of Allah is also not positively invoked while slaughtering, also comes under this fourth category of prohibited items. The Quran has declared it to be an act of fisk or defiance, just as it has done so in the case of slaughtering an animal in the name of someone other than Allah. While refuting certain superstitious beliefs of the Arabs about animals, it says, وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا مِمَّا لَمْ يُذْكَرَ اسْمُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ وَإِنَّهُ لَفِسْقٌ وَإِنَّ الشَّيَاطِينَ لَيُوحُونَ إِلَىٰ أَوْلِيَائِهِمْ لِيُجَادِلُوكُمْ وَإِنْ أَطَعْتُمُوهُمْ إِنَّكُمْ لَمُشْرِكُونَ. And eat not that animal on which Allah's name has not been pronounced at the time of the slaughtering of the animal, for this is fisk. And certainly the devils do inspire their friends to dispute with you, and you should know that if you obey them, then you would indeed be polytheists. Surah number 6, verse 121. While explaining why not invoking Allah's name on a slaughtered animal or prey make it a prohibited thing, Imam Amin Ahsan Islahi writes, firstly, as I have explained in my commentary on the Bismillah verse, any task or routine begun without taking the Almighty's name is without the blessings of Allah. One must take the Lord's name whenever benefiting from His favors, whether big or small, to express gratitude at being blessed with them. If he does not show acknowledgement on such favors, then this is tantamount to extortion and making use of something that actually does not belong to him. Such an unbefitting and unworthy attitude deserves the wrath and punishment of the Almighty. Secondly, the sanctity a life possesses requires that even an animal be sacrificed only with the permission of the Almighty, who is the creator of life. It is only Allah who can give us this right, and therefore, as a reminder of this fact, it is necessary to take His name when the life of an animal is taken. If God's name is not taken while slaughtering an animal, or if someone else's name is invoked, or if besides His name, someone else's name is also taken, then this amounts to violating the sanctity a life has and also showing disrespect to the Almighty Himself. Thirdly, this practice closes the gateway to polytheism. Those who are aware of the history of various religions know that animal sacrifice, making offerings, and making vows in them is deeply linked to worship rituals. Because of its importance, it has received great support and patronage in polytheistic religions. People and nations who have been incriminated with honoring and venerating some deity have got themselves involved in various forms of animal offerings and sacrifices. The Quran records Satan's challenge given to the Almighty, in which he openly told him that he would lead people astray. The challenge specifically mentions this form as a means to procure his objective. To close all these doors to polytheism, the Almighty made it obligatory that only His name should be positively taken while sacrificing an animal. Anyone who does not follow this practice is not only doing something forbidden, but also the animal upon whom he has committed such an excess is forbidden. Tadabbur Quran, Volume 3, pages 157 and 158. The same prohibition applies for a slaughtered animal or prey on which, although the name of Allah is taken, but the person who takes this name does not believe in God or subscribes to polytheism by associating other deities with him. At the time of slaughter, obviously, no distinction can be made between indulging in polytheism by invoking the name of someone other than Allah and the slaughtering of an animal by a polytheist. For this very reason, besides Muslims themselves, the Quran has only allowed animals slaughtered by the people of the book, since they originally subscribed to monotheism. The Quran says, اليوم أحل لكم الطيبات وطعام الذين أوتوا الكتاب حل لكم وطعامكم حل لهم. All clean things this day have been made lawful to you, and the food to whom the book was given is lawful to you and yours to them. Surah number 5, verse 5. This completes the discussion of prohibited items. It is only in compelling circumstances that one is allowed to benefit from them, and that too with the conditions that a person neither craves for them nor crosses the bounds by going beyond his essential need. The Quran has used the words غَيْرَ بَاغٍ وَلَا عَادٍ to state these conditions in Surah Baqarah and Surah Nahl, while in Surah Ma'idah the words are slightly different. فَمَنِ اسْتُرَّ فِي مَخْمَصَةٍ غَيْرَ مُتَجَانِفٍ لِإِثْمٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Then he who is constrained by hunger to eat what is forbidden without showing inclination to sin will find Allah forgiving and merciful. Surah number 5, verse 3. While explaining this, Imam Amin Ahsan Islahi writes, the word makhmasa means hunger. To be constrained with hunger means that a person reaches the state that he is left with no other option if he is to survive but to eat prohibited items. In these circumstances, he is allowed to benefit from any of the prohibited items in order to save his life. This condition is imposed by the word غَيْرَ مُتَجَانِفٍ, which at other places is mentioned by the word غَيْرَ بَاغٍ وَلَا عَادٍ, which imply that neither should he eat such items with the fondness of heart, nor should he eat more than what is essentially required. The condition mentioned in the word makhmasha shows that where other alternatives exist, the excuse that halal meat is not available, as is the case in some parts of the US and the UK, is not justifiable enough to benefit from prohibited items. Meat is not essential to keep a person alive. Other forms of food can not only keep a person alive, but also give him health and vitality. The condition implied by the words غَيْرَ مُتَجَانِفٍ لِإِثْمٍ shows that a concession is a concession, and what is prohibited in every form. Neither a prohibited thing should become a sought-after and cherished item, nor a concession an eternal permission to benefit from. Consequently, it is stressed that one should only benefit from prohibited edibles just to combat compelling circumstances. If a person takes into consideration these conditions and then benefits from a prohibited item to save his life, the merciful Lord would indeed forgive him. However, if he takes undue advantage of this permission by having a relishing meal from it, then he should be ready to face its consequences, for this would not be a legitimate excuse on his part when he stands up on the Day of Judgment to give his account to the Almighty. Tadabbur Quran, volume number 2, pages 458 to 459. All these things enlisted above are prohibited as edibles. As far as their other uses are concerned, they are totally allowed. No believer should have any doubt in this regard. Ibn Abbas anhu says that this is something which the Prophet Muhammad himself once pointed out. He is reported to have said, a goat was given in charity to Maimuna's maid. The goat died. It so happened that the Prophet Muhammad passed by. Seeing the dead goat, he said, would that you had taken its hide, tanned it, and then made use of it. People said, it is a dead animal. At this the Prophet declared, only eating it is forbidden.